Last time on Dragon Ball Z.
I went to pee.
And now, the conclusion.
I think I said this was the likes that was coming up. I'm not very good at structuring these. I need a producer or some shit. Yeah, so things I like. They failed to undo the snap and just kind of had to live with it for 5 years after they fucking executed Thanos. Which is funny because right before they kill him, Nebula's talking to him and they're like, "You're lying." Well, they're all talking to him and they're like, "You're lying about destroying the stones." And Nebula says, "My father is many things, but I've never known him to be a liar," or something like that. Thanos kind of like slowly looks up at her and he says like, "Maybe I was too harsh on you, daughter." And then as Nebula is like starting to kind of get touched by this, that's when Thanos just lobs his head off. It seemed like being a jerk to the whole universe made Thanos nicer. Farming them papayas, space papayas or whatever, tempered his evil. Both these parts are gonna be fucking long, aren't they? They kind of, well, at least people's theories and maybe some of the marketing, made it seem like they were going to just go back in time to stop the snap. But the cool thing is they didn't. They actually had to go, they went to the past to get each of the stones from different times so they can reassemble the gauntlet and undo the snap that way, which I thought was really cool. They're not undoing what was done to their universe in terms of the timeline. They're just going to the past to get the tools they need to kind of fix it the right way, I guess, in their time, by not fucking everything up. Because Tony Stark was like, "Hey, we're not undoing it because then you'll undo my family, and we're not having that." Because he was pretty bonded with his daughter, and had a nice relationship, and it was sad to see him go. So they didn't want to undo that. To build off of that, the thing I liked about Thanos coming back was that, I mean, their Thanos was dead, and an alternate past Thanos became, like, the bad guy for the movie, which was awesome. And he learned from that Thanos and tried to build off of the plan and kind of fix what went wrong. And it was just, I loved that. And the giant war that resulted from it. I also love voice cracking! And he was still a badass. Without the stones, he was still jacking everyone up. The humor was great and well balanced, unlike in these videos. I don't really know what to say to build off of that. It didn't feel like it was too much. Kind of like with Thor Ragnarok. Like it skirted, well, it didn't really skirt any line. It was very well balanced. Like they tried to lighten the mood up here and there when things were getting pretty dark, and they did a good job of that. Despite half the universe being dead, they still managed to bring light. It felt different from other Marvel movies. And, I mean, Infinity War and Endgame both felt, like, unique. Whereas, like, most of the other Marvel movies feel like Marvel movies, except with, like, a handful of them that don't feel like every other Marvel movie. Which is, like, Ragnarok, well, the two Thanos movies. That's pretty much all I can think of right now. Everything else is pretty formulaic in terms of Marvel movies, but this one felt different, and it also felt different from Infinity War, like, very different because of everything that had happened. It almost didn't even just feel like a sequel to Infinity War. It was separate and unique and dark, but then also light. It was cool. And it had the really massive fight at the end. So yeah, it was a nice change of fresh air. And, well, like I said in the last part, they kind of promoted body positivity after some slight fat shaming of Thor, and still kept his dramatic scenes dramatic, even with his giant-ass beer gut. He really does look like me, just kind of more exaggerated. It does do, like, this cool, kind of, I don't know what to call it. It's not feminism. I guess, like, girl power moment. When, like, I think Scarlet Witch or somebody was fighting Thanos, or his army or something. I saw this movie, I swear. And he says, like, you're not going to be able to do it alone. And then, like, all the other women superheroes show up and say, like, she's not alone. And then they each kind of start destroying things. Which also reminds me, there was a cool scene where Pepper Potts was using a silver Iron Man suit, and she and Tony were blowing stuff up together, and that was pretty cool. And then there's, like, the best imagery in any superhero movie ever when you have Cap standing up against Thanos and the entire army he brought down from his ship. He's all beat up because Thanos had just finished whooping his, Thor's, and Iron Man's asses. So he gets up with like a broken shield, kind of tightens it, and he's got like a big gash down his arm. He looks pale as shit and all dirty, and it's like a fucking walking dead man. But he stands up against them, and it's just got this like wide shot of his whole army. The sky's kind of cloudy and shitty. The place is all fucked up from being bombed. It was a good scene. It was pretty cool, and then he gets the call from Falcon, and then all hell breaks loose. And voice crack! It did a good job of referencing all the past movies. It was a good celebration of like every movie, well, the series in general that came before it. Falcon saying "on your left," like he did in Cap 2, when Cap kept passing him. Now it's Falcon's turn to say "on your left." It was pretty cool. The Cap 2 elevator scene kind of happens again, because Steve Rogers and Iron Man go back to the point of the first Avengers movie to get the Mind and Space Stones. Cap goes to get the Scepter to get the Mind Stone, and he gets on an elevator with the cleaning crew, who happen to be pretty much all the dickheads from Cap 2, and they're working for Hydra, and they're trying to get the Lance to go experiment, do bad things. There's a sweet twist, because he's standing there just like in Cap 2, with all of them surrounding him, and he's like, no, give me the scepter, I'm taking point, don't worry, the director said it's mine. And they're like, well, we'll call him and make sure, and he's like, no, you don't have to. And then he leans over to like one of the head guys, and he's like, Hail Hydra. And then they're like, oh shit, Cap's in Hydra? So then he walks off with the scepter, which was awesome. And he ends up fighting himself, because other Cap is like, that's Loki. Which, by the way, Loki runs off with the Space Stone because they make Hulk use the elevator after their big victory, and he's pissed about it. Or they make Hulk use the stairs because there's not enough room for him. He weighs like 1,000 pounds, and they're all on the elevator. So he gets to the bottom of the steps as present Tony is making his way with the Space Stone, and he gets knocked back by Hulk busting through the stairway access door all pissed off, and then Loki kind of looks around and then picks up the suitcase with the Space Stone and leaves. But that's not something I like. Well, yeah, it is. That counts. That's on the list. And yeah, it's just kind of left at that. The Loki from that point in time just leaves with the Space Stone. And oh yeah, I forgot about that in my summary. They sort of remedy that by going to 1970 to get it, and some more Pym particles, because they were very low on them, which meant no time travel. Tony meets his dad and has a touching moment with him, and they get the Space Stone from really far in the past. So how do they fix the issue with Loki having it and then taking the same because 1970s Space Stone, and does that undo Loki having it? Time travel is really fucky in this movie. Let's add that to the dislikes. And then obviously, like, they're visiting a bunch of the old movies when they're trying to get the stones back. So you see some familiar stuff, which was cool. And then the final reference is a sad one, like I mentioned, when Tony says, I am Iron Man, referencing how he reveals himself in the first Iron Man movie. He does it again just before he dies, blows everything up. Well, turns all the bad guys into poo gas. And then, like, Tony also had, like, a big reunion with Spider-Man, because something was about to, I think, be thrown at him or dropped on him or something. No, there was a giant monster that I think was about to smack him, and you see webbing pull it away. Spidey's like, oh, I was poo gas, and now I'm not. What the hell happened? And then Iron Man gets up and doesn't say anything to him, and just hugs him, and it was cool. And he's like, oh, this is nice. So that's my review. Did I even... It's probably a shit ton of things I missed, and it was very disjointed. Even though I made 2 videos to try and encapsulate it. That's the whole list. But yeah, all in all, I did like the movie. It was probably my favorite of the Marvel Studios movies. I think it holds up pretty well even against Logan, which is pretty much my favorite Marvel movie. Like, they kind of go neck and neck, which, well, both movies are building off of a huge series. Just Endgame is, like, almost, well, about 21 movies before it. Shit. I'm kind of intrigued to see where things go, because Cap's old, Iron Man's dead, Thor's joined the Guardians, so I'm expecting to see him in Guardians 3. Falcon becomes the new Captain America. Kind of weird they went with that and not Bucky. But I think it's because... Oh great, I tilted my camera down, turning it back on. Whatever, it's almost done. I think they wanted more, well, they wanted like black representation, so they gave it to Falcon, which I'd be more interested in anyway, because he's got wings and stuff. I don't know which one of those two I like more. Whatever. It's a good movie, and I liked it, and I'm kind of excited to see where it goes next. I mean, the next phase has got a lot to live up to, because phases 1 and 2 built up to this movie, and it's pretty epic, and it's gonna be 10 more years and I'll be 40, and I'm sad because Iron Man's kind of gone for good. Like, Tony's not gonna be in any other movies except in flashbacks, and that makes me sad. Well, because it happened kind of during some legitimate sad times in my own life, and just, it's permanent and he's gone, and maybe it was the 5-hour energy and the dehydration and being sleep deprived, but I was hit pretty hard by it for a little bit. I mean, it took me a while to film this, but that was mostly laziness. Alright. Go see Avengers Endgame. I can't wait till it comes out on Blu-ray, and I'm gonna watch it and Infinity War back-to-back. Motherfucker! Woo! I don't know how to end these. Look at my bald hair.